They've been led by Rahul George, who carried the responsibility of being head boy superbly. At times, some of us, and I know I was, concerned that the position would compromise his own personal aspirations. But the hallmark of his leadership was the commitment he made to get to know as many of the student body as he could. All the student body knew him, but I can assure you, he knows most of them. Rahul cared about this college, and he cared about BDMs, and that is his great legacy as head boy. Thank you, Rahul. You have been an outstanding head boy. He was ably assisted by his fellow prefects, who were a talented, enthusiastic group of young men who made a positive, a most positive impact on 2013. Gentlemen, to all of you leaving, I challenge you to live with a Catholic mind and a Catholic heart, to use those talents and great gifts for the betterment of not just yourself, but all those who come in contact with you as you enter the next phase of your lives. It gives me great pleasure to award the Head Prefect's Medal there to Rahul George.
Mr. Boyle, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dalton, staff, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow BDMs. In 18 years, I've never felt more nervous. Partly because I've been writing this speech in my head for 5 years. And by that, I don't mean that I was arrogant enough to believe that I would be head boy from my first year at the college, but that I've been dreaming of it since the first time I saw head boy Sam Vincent say a prayer in the chapel on my first day. In 18 years, I've never felt more scared. In fact, at the start of this year, I've never been more afraid of the future. Before me had gone great men, and if that wasn't daunting enough, I had 22 prefects and an entire school waiting for me to lead them. Looking back, I think a lot of people, including myself, expected me to handle anything. I understand now that there is nothing farther from the truth. In the year gone by, I have failed. So many times I have let people down. But how then, amongst all the failure, have I had the best year of my life? Why do I feel as though I have succeeded? Well, in 18 years, I've never loved a place more than this. And that love can take you anywhere, and let you do anything. This year, the college has moved into what Mr. Davidson described as the rebuilding year. We had our earthquake, we had our centennial celebrations, and this year, it was time to rebuild the college. With the foundations of faith and work standing strong, we began to rebuild the very culture of the school. So my prefect took on the immense challenge of leading that culture change. And boy, did we find it difficult. With the valuable help of Father Mark and his Morris Youth Leader team, we started off the year much like the Batman started off his career. With our minds set firmly on a goal to serve the people, the school watched a bunch of idealistic teenagers who were dead set on changing the world. With a special focus on unity and creating a culture that valued the safety of every BDM, we started to climb our steep mountain. and many times throughout the year, we forgot the words of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He said, "All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But let us begin." However, anchored to our year was the responsibility to make a difference, and Kennedy's words came back into the forefront of our minds. For us, it was never about changing the world. It was about making as much difference as we could that could positively change the lives of as many as we could. It was about beginning, being the spark that lit the fire. I can honestly say to my prefects that I've never met better men before. The struggle we faced, the disappointment, it can only be outweighed by the success we achieved. We weren't the only ones who were failing and succeeding at this college. The first 15, the first 11 football, hockey and cricket, the under 15A rugby team, the senior A basketball team, the debaters, the Sheila Wynn boys, the students and teachers in the teacher versus student touch game. We all experienced success and also failure. But that wasn't the only consistency between us. We all kept going. None of us gave up, because Bedians don't give up. Michael Jordan once said that he failed over and over and over again in his life, but that was why he succeeded. If there's one thing I've learned this year, it's that you cannot let your failure rule you. Whatever situation we're in, no matter how hard it gets, we always have two choices. One is to give up, and one is to not give up. When making those two choices, you will find that your mind drifts first to giving up. Not because it's what we want, but because it's easier. In those moments, when faced with two choices, we look to the people around us. I know for a fact that no success in this world is achieved without faith and work and the people around you. Looking back at any success I've ever had, there is always someone that has played a major part, and an even more major role sometimes than myself, in making it happen. As John Schwartz said yesterday in a truly fantastic acceptance speech at the Boarders Obedient Spirit Awards, "Thanks, boys. Yeah, nah, thanks. Thank you very much." Thank you. I too say thank you. But not because I have nothing else to say, but because it is the only thing I want to say. Firstly, I want to thank the Year 13s. Today you made me prouder than I've ever been to call you brothers. After the antagonistic antics of individuals, you turned away, put a smile on your faces, and held your heads high. Keep holding those heads high, boys. The Obedient family is truly blessed to have you. To Mr. Vincent and the Boarders, you really are the heart of this school. Thank you for welcoming me in and letting me eat all your food. Mr. Kurt Lockley and Mrs. Marie Lockley, the many times I've bothered you to let me into the library after school should give you enough reason to slump at the sight of me. But this year you always greeted me with a smile. Thank you. To my teammates and coaches, Mr. Wooding and Kevin Calder, thank you for the support on the pitch, but also off it. You all taught me that failure comes at what seems like the worst time, but together we can get over it. In the debating side of the college, I have had many a good argument, most of the time in the prep room with my fellow teammates, just before realising that we'd all been saying the same thing for the last half an hour. Mrs. Kilpatrick, your dedication to this school, and particularly the academic side of the college, can only be outweighed by your love for your students. In Year 9, a scared, skinny Indian boy walked into a trial for the Bishop Lions debating team. Unbeknownst to this young man, the competition was strictly for seniors. You knew all along, but you let me trial anyway. I remember being so nervous that I was sure my cheeks were actually red for the first time. It wasn't until a year later, when I learned what the Bishop Lion's Shield was, that I realised what you'd done for me. In the same way, it isn't until now that I fully realised what you'd done for me. You guided me to greatness. Never. Thank you so much for being my perseverance and my strength. The great times I've had performing on stage over the years have taught me that courage can take you a long way. Even to the point of being shirtless, wearing a pair of tights, and playing the ukulele while another Bedian feeds you grapes. The courage to do crazy things like that only comes from those around you. So to Miss Sullivan and the drama boys, thank you for the courage you've instilled in me. Music is and will always be one of my predominant reasons for living. Dr. Hawkey, in Year 10, you gave me a pamphlet that had details for the Caritas Sing Out for Justice songwriting competition. You placed it in front of me and said that it would be worth entering. To me, that is always the first thing I remember when I think of you. You have never, ever stopped believing in me. When you placed that pamphlet in front of me, I knew I could write a song that was worthy of winning. Your belief carried me then, and it carries me now. Thank you for being more than a teacher. Thank you for being the faith inside me. Mrs. Charlton, I've learned more about life in your singing lessons than I have about actually singing. Which really does say a lot, because anything I've learned about singing, I've learned from you. In every lesson, you offered me some sort of advice that would get me through the rest of the day, before telling me to suck my guts in and to drop my larynx. Thank you for being my hope and my happiness. Mrs. McKean, you may think that all I will remember about you are your many attempts in trying to set me up with your daughter. That is simply not the case. The love you've shown me over the years, and particularly this year, has been a source of sheer strength. It is the only way I've been able to continue on throughout this year. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting your daughter soon. To all my teachers, and to all the teachers at St. Bede's, I can stand here for hours on end, thanking each and every one of you. You have always gone above and beyond what I've asked of you. Sometimes even above and beyond what my mum asked of you, when she asked you to make sure that I was eating and drinking properly. To every teacher at this school, whether it was educating my often empty mind or just saying hello to me as I walked past, thank you. I don't know if you fully understand the effect you've had on my life, but it has been immense. To Mr. Davidson, yesterday you hugged your arch nemesis. I think this sums you up as a person perfectly. The amount of banter that you take from the boys and your ability to find the middle ground between being the deputy rector who has to enforce the law and also a friend who will forgive anybody, even King Darbo, will always be in my memory whenever I need a role model to look up to. Mrs. McHathley, my second mum, you're a mother to Bedians everywhere, but especially to your second son. You're the perfect example of a person who follows Mary, the perfect example of a Marist. Many times this year I've walked into your office with a problem, but I've always walked out with a fire to be the best that I can be. You are an amazing friend, mother, and colouring in teacher. I know that no matter how many times I tell you, you will never agree with me, but a great man once told me that amazing people never think they are amazing. They just do all they can, the best they can. You exemplify this quote. Thank you for surrounding me with love and for raising me like a son. Tom, Emma and I will be there for you whenever you need us. Mr. Boyle, I think the most selfless act you have ever done is to allow your son to be the deputy head boy. You knew the challenges it would bring, You knew that ignorant people would talk, but you set aside your own reputation for the good of this school. You chose the best man for the job, despite the implications it had for you. You are a truly amazing man. Your love, faith, and courage drive the work you put in and day out. Although I've never said this to you before, you have become a father to me this year, and I hope that one day I will be half the man you are, and I look forward to annoying you at your home with yarns for the rest of my life. Jack, continuing on with the theme of an adopted family, I want to tell you that you are my brother. You always will be. If you become a black cat or a lawyer, that fact will not change. But you know what? In my heart, I know you're going to be a great professional cricketer, because I've never met anyone that loves something as much as you do. You work so hard at your passion, and that has been and will be a constant source of inspiration for me. If you want to know how Jack has supported me this year, then I'll tell you a story. Last night, while I was furiously trying to get this speech done on time, Jack stayed with me, offering me advice, and then later on, he went home and made me hot chips and little chicken bites. If cooking for me wasn't an indication of how much he's done for me this year, he also conquered his fear of walking back to the library through the dark. Mate, last time you were there beside me, as you have been all year. Without you, I know that I could definitely not do this. Thank you so much. To all my family, I love you all so much. You know me better than anyone. You see all the bad aspects of my personality, but even so, for reasons I'll never understand, you still love me. To my cousin brothers in New Zealand, Joseph and George, thank you for making sure I didn't become too much of a girl. Our constant brawls and late night heart-to-hearts are moments that I will always hold dear to my heart. To my cousin sister Zinzi, it's not easy being the oldest in the family. You always get the difficult responsibility. Thank you for your constant love. My auntie Tess, you're an amazing woman. You've been through so much, but you still make me laugh with your attempts at text language. Thank you for all your support. To my sister Sneha, you've always been the moral voice in my head. I keep the note you gave me on my birthday close to me always. Thank you for being the best big sister in the world and for never letting me down. Whenever I need an example of perseverance and strength, I think of you. To my little sister Sweta, whatever happens next year, you will surpass me in every way. You are already a better performer, and let's face it, you've always been smarter than me. When you were little, you were a tomboy, and the brother I never had. Now you're a girly girl, but in some ways, you're still the brother I never had. Mum, you're my best friend, my greatest role model, and my mother. There is no one on this earth who I love more. You've been through so much in your life, but you have never given up. This year you've dealt with every hard day that I've had, every difficult situation I've put on you. Thank you, Mum. I love you so much. I have one goal, and that is to make you proud, and if I can achieve that goal, I know I have lived a good life. So to my three favourite girls, I love you, and if you ever need me for anything at all, I will be there. Mostly I want to thank my God. Through everything, you have always remained with me and have always believed in me. God, whatever the future brings, I give my life to you. Thank you, Lord, for saving my life. To the boys next year, this college is yours now. As John Fitzgerald Kennedy once said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. This college is your country. We have lit the fire, but you must keep it burning. It is your job to lead the boys to becoming the best possible version of the people God created them to be. With faith and work, you must, and I know you will be better than we were. To 2014's head boy, trust and love God and never ever be afraid. I love this school. I'll miss this school. I always will. Thank you.
What an inspiration to all of us, Rahul. Thank you. We now come to the final group of prizes for this evening. These awards recognise those students who have distinguished themselves throughout the year for their consistent service to the college, their particular contribution to the special character of St Bede's, or their outstanding academic achievement. These young men are truly being the best possible version of themselves. Would these students please come forward? The Diligence Gold Medal presented by the Parents Association for the Year 13 student who received the most top weekly note certificates during the year, Samuel Collins. Brody Gold Medal for Religious Knowledge, Samuel Pitcatley. The Carl Sweeney Memorial Trophy for the best and most generous use of personal talent, Jack Boyle and Jake Thomas.